Jesse Tevelow, welcome to the ROI Online Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Appreciate it.
So, Jesse, I went through this emotional process. It's called writing a book. And
Yes.
when I went through that process, I didn't know it was going to be so emotional, but it was. It was.
Oh, yeah.
It was really hard in a lot of ways that I didn't expect. But one of the things that brought me a little solace was this book called Authorpreneur.
Oh, my goodness. Thank
Okay.
you. That's very
And
humbling.
it just happens to have your picture on the back of it.
How did that get there?
Yeah. So you know what? Thank you for writing that book.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I get a lot of folks that write in emails and say thank you. And those are like some of my favorite emails. Those always get me through the day, when people are like, oh yeah, I read this and it helped me. So yeah, very humbling.
So when you wrote that book, what was going through? Obviously, you wrote the book to support authors, because here's what happens: you get these authors that they're like, it's a big deal to write a book, and then you get this book, and here it is, baby, the book's in, and it's like, now what?
Yeah, sure.
And that's where this was starting to connect a lot of the dots for me. Tell me why, what convicted you to do this?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that's what it's done for you. That's the purpose of the book. Obviously, authorpreneur is a combination of the word author and entrepreneur. And so this was my attempt to basically tell everyone like my blueprint and the tools that I've used to build a successful business and to leverage my book. And this was, my first book was called The Connection Algorithm, and that launched in 2015. And here we are in 2020. Authorpreneur came out maybe a year or two ago now. But I really found out in that first book, The Connection Algorithm, the same thing you just mentioned, right? And most people who probably have gone through it that you realize once you go through it once, you realize it. And I thought to myself, I should tell people so that when they go through the first time, they can do it right, because it is a really big process and a really important process for a lot of people, especially if, I know your audience is primarily going to be doing nonfiction books that have that purpose, bigger purpose for a brand or a business. And, that can be one of the most important, if not the single most important marketing asset and lifelong asset that you create, and I think people don't realize that sometimes. Maybe they do realize it and then they get nervous and stressed about it. But if you just know how to leverage it correctly, then that gives you that peace of mind and it allows you to go through with the project and get a good result. And so that's why I wrote Authorpreneur. And obviously our company's called LaunchTeam. And so we help folks launch things. Books is one of our, best and most popular services because that's where we started. And we're really, really good at that in particular. But it really applies to anything. And when you talk about a book, you have to have the deeper strategies in place to leverage that asset. So with LaunchTeam, that's part of what we do. And that's part of how Authorpreneur was written. And it's certainly, if you just read Authorpreneur, you've got a lot of the tricks of the trade that we use.
So, Jesse, you know what you're talking about because you've worked with some authors who've had some really successful launches. Tell us about a few of those.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited for the portfolio that we're building now and some of the clients that we've had. I mean, we're fortunate enough to have some ridiculous clients. A couple that come to mind. One is Gabriel Renee, who is one of the founders of a company called Versus. They're creating the 3D spatial web. So they're creating literally like the AR, VR, 3D web. They've raised, millions of dollars, and their book was an international bestseller called The Spatial Web. They're now seen as like the leaders, thought leaders in that industry and in that term because they saw the emerging technology and then they captured that marketing through the book. And so that's one that I love. I've also done work with Brad Feld, who's a venture capitalist running a multi-billion-dollar VC fund. He's invested in some of the top companies in the world. A lot of the companies he's invested in have been acquired by companies like Google and such. So we worked with his book, Startup Communities, which is all about bringing startups together and having little communities of startups in different cities, which Brad thinks is the future. I agree with him. It's a very fragmented future, I think, for us in a good way, like lots of little webs of people doing stuff. And then just if I could drop a few quick little fun tidbits here, I know this is going to be dropping around our conference. And so Leonard Armato is a client that we're working with who's just an incredible human being. He was Shaq's, basically the mastermind behind Shaq and Shaq's brand. He was Shaq's lawyer and agent for over a decade. Yeah, it's going to be an incredible book called Managing Giants. It's about all the different celebrities that he's managed and then how to take that and take it back down to the human level and how anyone can learn to like manage themselves or manage others successfully. So, I mean, he's done it with the best of the best of the best. And so that book's super exciting. Let's see. We also have Eric Huberman is the last one I want to mention. He's a under 30 entrepreneur, and he runs one of the fastest marketing companies in the world, I think, certainly in the country. It's called Hawk Media, and he grew it from nothing to a valuation north of 100 million in like 4 years. So just incredible people doing incredible things. I also have like a few fiction books, a children's book that's going to be incredible. I think it's really going to help a lot of children in this crazy world that we're in now. So yeah, those are a few.
So when we look at, with like anything, you need a good plan, you need a good strategy, you need a good marketing, an agenda. But what became very clear to me, that's exactly what you have to do with this book. But there's different channels that you need to show up in. There are different ecosystems that you need to start to understand. And it's very in-depth and sophisticated. Give us some basics that we need to get clear.
Sure. Yeah. So this is really the main challenge, is that it's such a web of information, literally and figuratively speaking, in terms of trying to find stuff on the internet and then just piece it together. And that's really where the kernel of the business for us started, was me just realizing like how much of a black box that is. Mm-hmm. And I think for a lot of folks, certainly for creators and for authors specifically, but also just for entrepreneurs and anyone with a company, it's hard to figure out how these things are all going to fit together and how to avoid the pitfalls. It's easy to figure out what the product is, right? Usually, like, okay, here's what we're doing, here's what we're offering. But how to position it, how to plan for the launch, how to set yourself up, that is not something I think that's really taught. And so that's what we do. That's what we teach. And that's, if we're managing a launch, we run the whole thing. And then we've also got some really cool stuff that I think we're going to talk about that we're rolling out this year in 2021. That's going to really help, I think a lot of people. My goal is 1,000 launches in 2021. We'll see if we get there. It's a lofty goal. But what I realized is that this stuff works. The system works, because I started to repeat it over and over and over again. And every single book we've done has been a number one bestseller. Most of them are international bestsellers. A lot of them land on USA Today, Wall Street Journal. I mean, these are successful launches. We can also usually get anywhere from, usually 100 plus reviews, positive reviews on Amazon within the first couple of days, which if you're an author, if you've done it before, it's incredibly hard to get those reviews.
Yeah.
And so getting back to your question about basics, the thing that people miss is that the very first step, people talk about the last mile. The first mile is building your foundation, right? And so many people just think that if they think the sequence is they build the product, then they just like tell people about the product and then everyone just comes, and then but that's not how it works. The people should come first. And people go, well, how do I do that? It's chicken egg. Well, how do I get the people before the book's done or whatever, or my business even is ready? And the answer is you do a pre-launch. And that's what we've figured out, is the way to basically tell people what you're doing, get them to come and just hang out with you basically while you're getting that thing ready. And then they feel like they're part of it. So that now, no matter what you do with your marketing, I don't care what it is, now you have a better result because now you actually have someone to market to. Like, people just think that marketing is like you just put an ad out and then you get money. Like, that's not how it works. That's definitely not how it works. People are more and more caring about making a real relationship, building a relationship with whoever they're buying from, whether that's a person, a personal brand or a company brand. People want to feel emotion now. They don't want to just trade money. If you talk to any millennial or the younger generations, a disproportionate amount of them, something like 70 or 80% of them, just they want the loyalty with the brands that they interact with, and most of them don't feel like they have it right now. So any company listening, any founder, anyone considering a book, what you want to do is you want to build relationships that are deep and meaningful. And guess what? One of the best ways to do that is a book, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think also they want to know how you mess up a little bit. They want to relate with you.
Oh yeah.
I was just thinking while you were saying you need to get people in a pre-launch and go along in the journey, but my journey was felt a little insecure, like this is my first book, and I had to wrestle with these conversations in my head. It's like, who are you to write a book? And then to
Yeah.
share that with the people at the same time is really being vulnerable.
And then at the risk of it not working, that's the final piece, right? Everything you just said, plus that. And so it's like, yeah, that's again, why our business is working and it's successful, because it's like definitely a need. Like you don't want to mess up the launch, like a lot of people do, frankly, like most launches fail. I'm just going to be honest, like, just like how most startups fail, most launches fail, which is kind of the same thing if you think about it. And so getting the launch right is really is something that is, I don't know why it's such a black box, but it's a piece of marketing. And if you want to talk terms and get specific, I got this from Eric Huberman, the guy I mentioned, is nurturing. That's what I realized that we do. We're really good at marketing, but not just marketing, more specifically the nurturing piece of marketing, which is the relationship piece.
Wow. So, you and I talked, and through this experience of writing my book, I thought, I need to write a book on all the things you need to get squared away when you begin to write a book. And it's this thing needs to fit into your overall marketing system. And that means that you need to back up and make sure you're all set and prepared to really exploit all the activities that a successful launch would accomplish.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you want me to dig into that, because
please go for it.
And then I know, Steve, we were talking about this on just like a business call, and you're talking about the what I call the marketing edit. Mm-hmm. Which is, we do different edits with the content of our books. And one of those edits that most publishers, most folks don't do, even most editors don't do, because they're not marketers, is a marketing edit where they're looking at the content of the book in the larger context outside of the book. What does this book relate to? What other products, what other services, what brand, what person, what is it about beyond the book? And then how do I put things inside of that book to then build up everything else? And that's, again, where people don't plan enough. They just think, they oversimplify and think, I'm just going to put out a book, and then the book is like a marketing thing, and then I'll be good, and then I'll make money. It's oversimplifying it. You have to have a strategy and a plan. And just like a simple couple little nuggets for everyone watching is, number one, you must collect email, unless it's in fact, even if it's a fiction book, you should have something in there to collect email. Email is the number one most important thing you can possibly do, period, for your sustained success in life. Like, I'm serious. Like, it's that important, because once you have an audience, once you have email, you have a communication line, and that equals potential dollars, because guess what? That's a potential customer. And I'm not saying that to just boil it down to someone being dollars. I'm about relationships. It's just a point that if you're an influencer, if you have people who listen to you, you can make money in the world. And I don't know about you, but Steve, I'm not comfortable like leaving it up to the government or any institutions or anyone really, except me, to be able to make money. Right. And you think about COVID, or you think about, these black swan moments where you don't know what's going to happen. Well, if you're watching this and you're in deep water right now, I implore you to start building a platform, start building a brand, start building an email list and a user base, because eventually, if you want to, you can monetize that, and you can use that as a way, even if it's not monetizing, you can use it as a way to get publicity. You can use it as a way to get partnerships. So that's number one, right? You're writing a book. it's a perfect way to get people's email. They're reading about you. They're reading about what you do. Give them a way to get in touch, because Amazon is not going to give you the emails. Amazon is not going to give you anything really. So you must put that in your book, put it in the front, because people don't read all the way through to the end. A lot of people feel like that's like annoying, but it's not. Just put it up the front. You can also put it at the end. That's number one. Number two is also put a direct link out to something, out to a link, to a site, right? And that could be, people often think, oh, I can't do that because I don't know what I'm doing yet. But just put something that links out to a site, because then you can change that page and you can adapt it later. And you can even just do a simple redirect later to something else. So just having that path baked into the book in text and writing and hyperlinked so that it's good there for the digital versions on Kindle, so someone can just click it, you will be amazed. Gosh, can I give one more? Third tip?
Good. Go for it. You're doing great.
Third tip is tie something free to it, and that will get you even more emails. So we have a free companion course with the Authorpreneur book, for example, right? And so the very beginning of the book, I just say, hey, just grab our free course, right? But guess what they need in order to get the free course? They got to give me something. They got to give me their email. So now that book is just out there no matter what I do, whether I'm on this show or I'm on my own stuff. That book is just there, just soaking people up and bringing them into our funnel. So there you go. Some tips.
I love that.
You know, but you asked basics. It goes back to the community, always back to that community.
I love how organized you are and how you've really thought through a lot of these details. And not only did you think them, you captured that thought and got them organized, because I'm amazed at all the attention to detail and how in depth. So catch an email, right, is okay, of course, but not only that, you go, all right, put it in the front, put it in the back. You have all these little places that really exponentially grow the opportunities to get that email.
Yeah, devil's in the details. I come from UI UX experience background, and it's like you hear this often about how it's crazy how you change one little line or move one button away, and all of a sudden the conversions double. Well, that kind of thing is not just with UI UX, it's everything. The devils are in the details always. So it's like you pay attention to those little tweaks, and what happens is, I've done this for years and I've done so many launches that you start to figure out where the ROI is. So like, okay, putting the email in there, big ROI, super easy to do. Like, do that, so I know what those things are like. And then let's go to the opposite side. Spending 25 or spending 15 grand on a promo video. Should you do that? No. You know how I know? Because I did that and it wasn't worth that. So it's like, you can waste tons of money and you can make tons of money based on these little tweaks. And it just comes from experience. And that's why I'm such a big proponent. I write a lot of articles about this around expertise versus learning. Because there's like this big thing right now about learning, right? And like anyone can learn how to do anything. And in some regards, yes, the internet's great. You can learn a lot of stuff, but I'm a big proponent of working with experts. And yes, you need some money and some budget and stuff to do that. And you have to work up, and there's creative things you have to do. But if you're at a point in your life where you could spend a little money on this type of stuff to invest in it, then I'm always a big proponent of doing that. So when you talk about all these little details, that's what you get when you work with an expert. And that's why you see the results. And I'm just telling it like it is, that's just the truth.
So my LaunchTeam, tell us how that's started, and then it's evolved somewhat, and then we're teasing what we're really going to get to here.
Okay, cool. So LaunchTeam started right here with my first book. This is the first book I wrote. It's called The Connection Algorithm. This came out in like 2015, I think, in May, I believe. And this book, I was just leaving my game company. I had a game company that's still in business today that did very well, but I was like 30. I left the company and I knew I wanted to write a book because I just always wanted to be an author. And I had some cash at the time, which I promptly wasted on a promo video. And seriously, I was, oh God, I hate even thinking about it. And But so what happened is Brad Feld, one of my investor friends who invested in our first company, said he was going to publish this. And he had a publishing company that he was starting. And I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. It's going to be like, we can do marketing around this. And it's like a new publishing company. And then it folded before I was ready to publish the book because it just didn't work out. And so I was kind of screwed, but it worked out to be a blessing in disguise because then I figured out how to do all the marketing myself. I self-published it. And then that became basically LaunchTeam because I figured out I was learning about the concepts of street teams or launch teams at that same time because my book wasn't doing as well. And I was watching all the popular ones and I saw they all had these launch teams and then some of them had blogs about it, like Michael Hyatt and I think Pat Flynn and some of these other entrepreneurs were doing this. And I'm like, what are these launch teams? You know? And so I started digging into that. And then my second book, giving you the whole rundown here.
Yeah.
Second book, I'm like, okay, let me like do some more marketing, some more prep. So this is Hustle. I wrote this book in 3 days and I published it in about 3 weeks. So the book is about my process. It's very meta. It's about me writing the actual book and how I do it. But the point of this one was to see how much the marketing mattered, right? Because I'm like, okay, let me just write this thing fast. Let me see, is it the content? Or is it the marketing, right? And the content has to be good. Don't get me wrong. You have to have a good product. But what I found was, you ready for this? I spent, I don't know, like probably 30, 35 grand, 20, 15 of that was the promo video. I spent maybe $1,000 on this one. And they've both done the same. They both done really well. This one even does better. It might be doing better. You know, and it's like, so it just shows you. And what I did with this one is I got a little team together in advance. I started telling them, I started getting them involved in the project. I found some partners, some people that could tweet about it. I started finding some platforms. There was one at the time, I forget what it's called now. It like blasted out Twitter, like tweets at the same time. So I just started messing around and that's what happened. And we started doing really well. And we started getting, you know, opportunities to do other launches and finding other partners. And then eventually we expanded outside of books and now we can launch anything, podcasts, courses, companies. We've launched entire companies. We help companies raise money. I mean, we can basically launch anything because what I said before, this model transcends any product, any service, any company, because it's the foundation. It's the first mile. No matter what your campaign is, whether it's a Kickstarter, raising money, releasing a new product, a new company, a new product line within an existing company, it doesn't matter. The relationship piece is where it starts with your customers, your stakeholders, and your early adopters.
That makes sense. So what I really appreciated about Authorpreneur was you have this free online course that I went in and watched, and it was so well done. It really was impressive, and I really appreciate it because I understood the organization and the details to think it through, set it up, do them, edit them, and publish them. That was really cool how well done it was, and it was impressive. So bragging on you.
Thank you. I think you're talking about the Teachable course that's like the companion course along with the book, right?
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah. You know, it's good to hear that you like it because I'll tell you, Steve, like it wasn't that hard to make. And I would recommend that everyone do something like this. If you don't already have something else for them to get, this is like an easy way to just automatically have something where you have your book. And you can even do this whatever sequence. You can like do the presentation thing first and then write the book from that, or you can write the book and do the presentation. I like to write, so I do the book. And then from that, I simply write up some bullet points and highlights from the book itself. And that gives you a structure. And if you did the book correctly and you structured it well, it should create a very nice presentation. You know, you need to, called a structural edit. That's one of the other edits that we do to make sure it's a page turner and that sequencing is correct. And so all I did was just put those highlights and then I talked through it. And pro tip, get a good mic and make sure that, you know, it just sounds good because that's half of it. I have no visuals or anything. I was actually kind of like, man, God, I should like spend more time, spend more money. And I just did it. And yeah, I get a lot of positive feedback on that. So yeah, I would highly recommend doing that kind of model.
Yeah, I appreciated how it was minimalistic,
Yep.
but it was really well done. And I could tell you just did it in a very small space, and you just had a black screen with your white
Yep.
text and your white bullet points, and you went through each chapter, and it was very well done. So I was like going, that's brilliant how he did an effective uh, course with very minimal editing and
Yeah.
setup.
Super easy. Yeah.
Mhm.
Where did I see that? I can't remember where I saw that, but yeah, I've seen some different entrepreneurs doing that. And it's just like an easy hack. Like if you don't have the time to do the design, you don't want to work with design, you don't have the budget to do that. Just like this is a super easy way. Just talk through it and you put the text out there. And again, it has to be good content and the structuring has to be good for it to like actually create the value. But you'd be surprised with something like that, especially if it's free. The customer's not going to really expect like a ton of bells and whistles on that. So thank you. That's great feedback.
Yeah.
Glad you liked it.
So you have this summit coming up. So
Yeah.
now I understand better about LaunchTeam and that it's not just for books, it's for podcasts and other things. Tell us about the summit that's coming up here first of next year.
Yes. So last week of January, I'm not sure exactly when this is dropping, but I know it's going to be right around there. So it's the last week of January. The whole week is the summit. So if you're listening to this and it's, Tuesday, don't worry, you can come in. So it's Monday through Friday, the last week of January, 25th through the 29th. And it's called the LaunchTeam Growth Summit. And I'm just incredibly excited about this. It's almost a year in the making now. We've been pretty much, the pandemic hit and we had to really scope out our year, and we had been planning on doing an event for years. And this was the time we were like, okay, let's pull the trigger. And I'm just really glad we did. It turns out that our business has really exploded over that same time period, because as the pandemic hit, a lot of people were out of a job and trying to figure out what they were doing next and had something they were going to launch. And now is the time, or they had extra time. So it was like time to put out the book. And so we just had this huge influx. At the same time, we're building up the summit and getting, expert speakers and all this stuff. And they're all at home. So they all say yes. So like, I'm just like, wow, I'm so humbled by all the people that said yes and all the different partners. And, we have several of the people I've already mentioned are speakers there. So there's over $1 billion of wealth that's been created by our guest speakers. I mean, they're just incredible human beings, and they go up and down the scale. So these are people that, have worked with billionaires, and they're people who are just starting out, early entrepreneurs seeing a lot of success. So anyone that wants to come to this event, I think, can get something out of it. There's 5 different talking tracks. So if you just have a specific area you want to dig into, just a couple like marketing talking track. If you want to get into more of this kind of stuff and ROI online kind of stuff, there's all kind of amazing marketers. We also have emerging tech. If you're interested in seeing what's new, what new technology is coming out, what are the trends. We have peak performance for emotional, issues. I always tell people that I'm on meds and I'm okay with that. And, I've had depression and suicide, issues and stuff. So we're just trying to put it all out there for people to say, look, the world's changing. It's changing at a pace that's like faster than most of our brains can process. So let's put all our brains together and try to like get a hold of all this. And so I'm really excited about it. There's also workshops. There's like all kind of crazy stuff happening all week long. We have startup awards. So if you are a startup, you can go and check out the page for the event, and there's a little place for you to apply. We're doing marketing and media blitzes for the startup awards winners. It's just gonna be a blast. I'm just pumped for it.
So help folks that maybe haven't attended an online conference before to kind of understand a little bit of the backstory of how these work, where you attend a conference virtually and can go from room to room as if you were in person.
I'm so glad you said that. That's such a great question. You're very good at asking good questions, by the way. So this is like a big part of our vision for our company, is that relationships are super important. And that's the centerpiece of our business. We're not a technology company. We're a relationship company that uses technology to facilitate the relationships. And so we've built an entire platform, an entire launch platform and community, premium business community that's all contained. And so the entire event is happening inside of our platform, which is pretty unique. There's a lot of like event platforms out there, but we actually partnered with a company called Circle to build it into our system and white label it. So it's like a piece of our company and our product now. Circle is actually a company represented at the conference. So if you want to learn about that, you can check them out. But basically what it does is it takes all the best and like most human aspects of communities, and it leverages the technology to augment all those things. So it's a very people focused platform. And when you go in, you'll see if you do get a free ticket, we're gonna get free tickets to your audience, Steve. So sorry, I just let that out of the bag early, I guess. But you're going to be able to go to the conference if you want to, and you can go in immediately now. It's open, so which is again very different. Like because in a physical event, you can't open the doors 3 weeks early, but on a conference online, I can open this up, and it's a whole community, and we have different rooms inside of our platform. So there's a lobby. There's a room for premium ticket holders. So like if you want to level up and get access to different things and have deeper business conversations with other partners and stuff, you can do that. And there's like a separate area for that, so that if you're upgrading or you're doing a different experience than someone else, those other folks aren't crowding the space, right? And that's the same thing that happens in the real world. So we're taking a lot of the aspects of the real world and we're bringing it online so that you get the most out of the experience. Because I went all over the world speaking and attending conferences. We were raising a venture capital fund for a couple of years actually, and I was going all over Asia. This was during the blockchain craze of 2017, 2018, and there were just conferences all over the place. And our company grew a lot during that period, and it was always at the events in the lobby, in the private rooms, in the back rooms, in the like behind the scenes, talking to other speakers behind the curtain before we walk out. Like those are the things that we're creating now on our platform, where we have these intimate launch groups for product launches. We have different groups inside of our event. So all our speakers have a little area where they can all talk business if they want. And so you get access to different things, and that's the way the world works. And I found that if you find the way to get into the right rooms and you actually do take the time or do invest in figuring out where those things are, that's where you make the big jumps. And so I encourage everyone to obviously to come to the event and watch the content. Our content is, I think, some of the best out there that I've seen. I've got probably over 25 of the fireside chats done, and the content is just incredible. But even more than the content, I'm excited about the people inside. And so when you get a free ticket, I encourage you to go in now, put up a profile picture. It's just like LinkedIn, right? Like this is for you. If you go to the event, it's for you. Like leverage it, like put your profile, put your job title, so that you can start having business conversations, frankly, with people inside of the event.
So give us some more insight on who some of these fireside chats are with.
Yeah, sure. So we have a lot of the folks I mentioned, I think all of them. So Brad Feld, Eric Huberman, the Forbes 30 under 30 marketer, Leonard, Shaq's agent, they're all represented. We also have Cal Fussman, who's one of my good friends. He's a previous journalist of Esquire magazine, and he's interviewed past presidents, Nelson Mandela, Robert De Niro, Kobe Bryant. So he's going to be there. We also have some great women. Bree Seeley, who is an entrepreneur coach, top ranked entrepreneur coach. If you search that term on Google, we helped her launch her book a couple years ago. So yeah, that's a few of them that come to mind.
So what kind of, this is not just a marketing conference, and this is maybe, what's the good age group, or what, give us a creative idea, someone that may not be considering they would be a good fit, but really are.
Yeah. So I get this question with every single conversation I have, right? It's a good question. Like if I'm talking to a partner or a speaker, someone wants to get involved, they ask, well, who's going to be there? And so I had to really think about this when we were doing the conference, we're planning for it, right? And here you go. Here's part of the planning process, right? This was a year ago. We were thinking about this. Was, okay, we're going to do a conference. What are we good at doing? And I thought okay, there's a lot of stuff in the publishing industry, and we could have done like how to do a book launch, because that's where we started, and we have that system. But then I'm like, okay, there's a lot more going on than like books right now. Like the entire world is changing, and we're well positioned based on the fact that we've done launches outside of books, and we've worked with different companies, and we've been all over the world at conferences, and we've done all these things over the last 5 years. I almost feel like I was lucky in being before all this happened, I was like ahead of the curve on it. And so now we're in a position where we can actually leverage all this stuff and be effective with it.
So someone maybe that's looking for a company to invest in, this might be a place for them to kind of, peruse.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess to answer your question more directly, like the theme that I tell people, the answer to that question that I give is the common thread that we are addressing with the LaunchTeam Growth Summit is the tremendous change that's happening right now and how to navigate through that change. So it's very that's why I say, I think there's kind of something for everyone here. Like even if you're considering jumping into launching something, you might want to come to this to figure out if you actually want to or not, right? Because you might start to learn all the different details and go, oh, maybe that's not the path for me. Or if you're someone that's been a little nervous to like pull the trigger, this is very good for you to get all the pieces that you need. And then let's go all the way to the top of the top. Let's say you're a Fortune 500 or something and you're a marketing director. There's going to be a ton of stuff for you in here too, because again, everything's moving so quickly. The methodologies are changing faster than most people can keep up. So
that makes sense. That's excellent. Thanks for.
Yeah. And we have a nice industry knowledge, right? You can, if you're operating in a vacuum on a launch, you don't really know what works and what doesn't work. You don't really have much context.
Yeah, you may be ahead of yourself, and there's some things here you've learned that you should consider first.
Exactly.
So Jesse, what's one question that you wished I would ask that I haven't asked that you'd love to answer?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Let's see here. You've covered everything so well. What do I want to highlight here? Honestly, man, I don't know if I have anything else. I'm so laser focused on this event that I don't want to cloud it with other stuff. I think it's just, I guess I'll say this. If you were to ask me like who we want to work with or whatever, I would just say this. If you go to our site and you look at our like culture stuff, I think that's a good way to gauge whether you would want to work with us or not. I'm very deliberate about the way that we've scaled our company and the way that we operate, and it's not conventional. We are very organic. We're very customizable. We're very relationship driven. There's almost no process at our company outside of our methodologies. Operationally, we just get together and get stuff done in little groups. We're all remote. We're all decentralized. I believe in the mesh network of the future, that workers, just smart people helping smart people working on stuff. I don't know if we really need these big, massive A-list corporations to really run everything. They're going to be there. But I think underneath that, there's just going to be a massive mesh network of people that are perfectly fine living, making a good living, living how they want to live, doing what they need to do, and not feeling tied to or dependent on a corporation or a government or an institution or whatever, or even a university diploma, right? Like just being able to just do it. So I encourage anyone who can like see beyond the social constructs that we have right now to get in touch with us and look at our culture and say, yeah, this seems like it's good. Like we don't do meetings. We don't have bosses. Like people are like, what? How do you get stuff done? Well, take a look and see, because it does work. And there's other examples besides us, like WordPress is another really good example. $1 billion company. They've been remote for years and years and years. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Come check out our culture.
All right. So for this event, Jesse has provided us with a special link that gives you a premium pass. It'll be in the show notes below as well. And then also, if you want to go and check out now this other link here is a partner link, right?
That's right. Yeah, I can expound real quick if you want on
Thank
these.
you.
Yeah, so I think we've got two things for your audience. One is we've got a free ticket to the event. So basically anyone in our partner network, and people like Steve who want to bring us on, we're doing our free early bird tickets. So it's normally $197, and we're probably going to keep increasing the price as we get closer. And then obviously if it's like at the door during the week, then we'll probably charge for those. So if you just want to make sure you get a free ticket, free spot, just you can get that now through Steve. Steve, thank you for helping us share this out.
Yeah.
And then there is a premium ticket option. I want to make sure we're clear that there will be a premium ticket option. It's $67, and it's pretty awesome. Basically, you get access to our entire launch platform for life. So we're doing like, it's well beyond actually just a ticket. It's us basically saying, here's all the stuff we've been working on. And if you just want to pay $67 one time and get access to everything we've been working on for like years. So yeah, check that out. But obviously the free ticket is amazing. I don't think like, look, if you're on a tight budget and whatever, don't buy it. Just get the free ticket. There's a ton of amazing content for free. You're still going to get keynotes, like 30 plus fireside chats. We've got 5 workshops, AMAs, startup competition, all that's free. So, get the free ticket to start. And then if the other one looks interesting, you can check that out. And then the other thing that we have for you is if you are a business and you have, or an influencer, or you have an audience or platform, like I told you, the most important thing, the way to monetize, here you go. Here's an opportunity. If you have a platform, is we have a partner link, a special partner link, where if you think this is cool and you think LTGS would be good for your audience, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh yeah, everyone I talked to would like this, we'll give you an affiliate link and then you can make money on ticket sales. So it's like, I think $20 a ticket on that $67 ticket. We made like $3,000 sending out a couple emails to our list and just as a test. And so, yeah, there's some money to be made there with our partners. So if anyone's interested in that, please check that out. And certainly the free ticket at the very least. And appreciate everyone listening too.
Jesse, man, you're a dynamic guest, and I'm just proud to have you on the ROI Online Podcast.
Thank you, sir. You as well, man. I know we connected. So Steve and I connected just through business, right? Through partnership stuff. And here we are today. And this is what I'm all about, the connection algorithm, right? It's like word of mouth is still the most powerful marketing tool. And that goes, here's one last nugget. It goes for external marketing and internal marketing. Even when I'm talking to you, Steve, I'm marketing. We're always marketing. We're marketing our services, our value, what we're about, our brand, our culture. So I love the fact that you and I just let it flow and just met each other. And now here we are. And I'm really excited to involve you more in the summit. And I know we're going to do more business together. So thank you once again for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So Jesse Tevelow, he's author of the 3 books. One in particular that I've got right here, Authorpreneur, is mylaunchteam.com, right?
Yep, mylaunchteam.com. Yeah, mylaunchteam.com is the website. And then we'll have those other links, right, Steve? I think in the show notes.
We'll be sharing those. They'll be in the show notes, etc. And then where else can anyone connect with you?
Mylaunchteam.com is the site for the business. And then I have a personal site at jtev.me, jtev.me. And those are probably the best places. And then you can obviously just type my name in Google and you'll get all my books and most of my work.
There you go. Thanks for being on the ROI Online Podcast, Jesse.
Thank you as well, man. I appreciate you.
All right. And that's a wrap.